Gather close, for this is a tale of vengeance, justice, and the never-ending pursuit of redemption. It begins in the sands of the Shurima Desert, a land of ancient ruins, fierce warriors, and forgotten gods. But in the midst of this harsh landscape, a story unlike any other is unfolding. So, join me now as we uncover the story of Akshan, the unforgiving vigilante, and follow him through a land where justice is not always black and white, but often painted in the colors of loss and redemption.
I remember that day as if it was yesterday, the desert sun scorching everything in its path. We were supposed to be brothers, fighting side by side, but he betrayed me. Viego, the man I trusted most, turned his back on everything he stood for, and on me that I had learned under him. But in that moment, he was no longer the mentor I had once revered. My heart, it shattered in that moment, and I swore I would find him and make him answer for his actions, no matter the cost. Betrayal is a bitter thing. It takes everything you believed in and leaves you with nothing but rage. But that Rajat drove me. I began to see the world differently. It wasn't about honor anymore. It was about justice, about making things right.
In the distant sands of Shurima, where the desert winds whispered of ancient powers, Akshan's story began. Born into a family of skilled marksmen, Akshan was raised with a sense of duty to protect his homeland and its people. But it was not his skill with a bow that would define him. It was his heart, a heart that was full of fire and a sense of justice that could not be extinguished, even by the harshest of trials. He was not always a vigilante, but fate had a way of shaping his destiny. The man who would become Akshan was once a hopeful soul, living in the bustling city of Shurima, where he fought alongside his beloved mentor, Viego, and other warriors to protect the land. Together, they were a brotherhood bound by honor. However, life in the desert was as unpredictable as it was unforgiving. Betrayal struck from within their own ranks. His mentor, once a trusted companion, turned his back on everything they stood for, leaving Akshan with a scar deeper than any wound from battle. Akshan's journey from this point was not an easy one. After the betrayal, he sought out those responsible, tirelessly hunting down the remnants of his old mentor's allies one by one. His heart, once filled with hope and trust, had become hardened, tempered by the desert winds and the sharp sting of loss. In his travels, Akshan found new allies, fellow warriors who shared his sense of justice. With each victory, Akshan's skills grew sharper, and so did his resolve. He became more than just a marksman. He became a symbol of vengeance, a vigilante who could strike from the shadows and leave no trace behind.
Every step I took was one closer to him. I could feel his presence, like a shadow that loomed over me. Viego had left a mark on me, on all of us. But I refused to let it be the end of my story. They called me a rogue, an outlawsome who could not be trusted. But I wasn't just an assassin. I was a man driven by something far more powerful than vengeance. I was fighting for what was right, for what was stolen from me and from my people. There were times, as I crossed the desert, where I wondered what my life could have been had things gone differently. But there was no going back now. The only choice I had left was to move forward.
As Akshan continued his crusade, he found that vengeance alone could not heal the wounds of his soul. Though he hunted down those responsible for his betrayal, he found little satisfaction in their deaths. The more he sought to right the wrongs of his past, the more he realized that the true battle was not against his enemies. It was within himself. Despite the darkness that had consumed him, Akshan's journey brought with it moments of clarity. His heart, once filled with bitterness, began to shift. He no longer sought to erase his past, but to understand it, to find a way to live with it.
I used to think that killing those who wronged me would somehow make it all better, but the more I did it, the emptier I felt. It wasn't about them anymore, it was about me. I had to ask myself, what kind of man had I become? Was I still the person who stood beside Viego, once believing in the cause we fought for? Or had I lost myself completely? The truth is, I'm still searching for the answer. Maybe I'll find it when I finally face him, Viego, my mentor, my betrayer. But until then, I walk this path, knowing that I must live with the consequences of every choice I've made.
Akshan's path was no longer one solely defined by vengeance, but by a deeper understanding of justice. He had become a protector of the helpless, a warrior who sought to right the wrongs in the world, not just through death, but through action, through hope. While his heart had once been darkened by betrayal, he had found a new purpose: to protect the innocent, to ensure that no one else would suffer as he had.
I can't change the past. I can't undo the betrayal, the loss. But I can choose what comes next. And I will continue to fight, not just for revenge, but for something greater, something worth living for. No matter what happens, I will never stop hunting for justice. I owe it to myself. I owe it to the people I failed to protect. And I owe it to the man I used to be.